Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only podcast that, like the 2023 Cardinals, are just ready for this to be over. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
It never ends for us, Nate. Week after week, we're here.
We're always here, whether you like it or not. And this week on the show, we're going to check in on Nolan Gorman and some of the other younger Cardinals. We're going to talk about the last 16 games of the season. We're going to check in on the international pitching market, and we're going to talk about the upcoming series against the Phillies and the series against the Brewers. If you have an idea for the opening bit, tweet us at Talk About Birds. Hambone, you know we got a lot to talk about, but
oh man,
thing you just said, we mentioned it at the end of the last episode too, but I don't know that everyone makes it to the end of every episode, especially the part where we still don't really know how to end this show. But yeah, you made a point that I think is worth repeating, is that we're coming up on the end of the season. If this is your first season with us and you haven't scrolled up through the podcast catalog, we keep this running all year. So, the topics might get a little light, or if you really like the first 10 minutes of the show, the off season gets even better for that. And we try to find other interesting things to do. We've got to watch our bad baseball movies and things like that. But, we'll stick around all off season. We'll track the off season with you, and, get ready for 2024 together. So
I think we're going to have a pretty exciting offseason. Actually, I think even last year there was a lot to talk about, and we're going to have the pitching thing to watch with the Cardinals. We're going to have Ohtani watch, and there will be other good kind of machinations happening. I think we'll cover MLB at large a little bit more. But there's always Cardinal stuff to talk about and to gripe about and to complain about, and who knows? Maybe Matt Holliday becomes the manager all of a sudden and boots
for a
Ali.
day. Then backs out last minute.
Did you see that? He's already saying this. He wants to manage a major league club in 2024.
No, I have not seen that. That's
he just said that the other day. Yeah. So we'll see.
All right. Well, yeah, maybe he'll take the job with the Cardinals for a day and then decide to do something different.
Yeah, I'm actually just going to hang out with my family and be rich.
Yeah. What turned out great choice, Matt.
Yeah.
Although absolutely. Who knows, maybe things would have been different with him here.
They definitely would. I do. I'm fully in belief that just anything would have helped the Cardinals. They just needed something to change. I don't know. But, based on what Paul DeYoung was saying a couple of weeks ago, maybe there would have been a little more respect for the manager's chair if he'd ever played in a big league game. That's not for me. That's from Paul DeYoung. I'm just reporting the news.
It was pointed out to us by C70 in our bird score too that Paul DeYoung has been pretty bad with the Giants now too. So.
Oh yeah, he has.
So that was coming. That all those remarks were coming off of two really good games with the Giants, and it looked like okay, Paul DeYoung has found his spot, and it's been pretty rough for him. Yeah, it's been rough for him.
He's got a 472 OPS right now, which totals to a OPS plus of 28. With the Giants in 42 plate appearances. So, yeah, not great for Paulie D over there, but, he's playing a steady defense.
That's what you're really bringing him.
He's first to the yard, last to leave.
Of course he is.
He's thoughtful. He's cerebral, one might
probably
say.
Reading his philosophy down in the dugout.
Yeah. Maybe writing his own.
That's what you want from a baseball player.
That is what you want.
We got a couple things to check in from last week, Ben. So you're talking to me. You survived your 24-hour race.
Yeah.
I'm definitely interested to hear a little bit more about it. For if you're joining us this week, Ben, could you fill us in a little bit about what you participated in? If I recall correctly, you were driving some sort of self-portrait car for 24 hours. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. So Real quick, Lemons Racing. It's a play on Le Mans Racing. It is an endurance style racing. I don't know, organization, I guess is the right word. And the race that I did last weekend is a 24-hour endurance race, meaning the goal is to keep the car running and turning laps for an entire 24-hour period. I'm on a race team with 3 other dudes. Shout out to Savage Orchid Racing. That is the team name. And we raced a 1982 Nissan ZX Z car. Part of the racing is that people really like to have fun with themes and just being really, really stupid and silly. And we decided the theme would be Grimace, the monster, the I don't
Big
know, the
purple monster.
aberration that's a part of the McDonald's squad. So we wrapped our car purple. We were wearing McDonald's workers uniforms. I was making cheeseburgers. We were making Grimace shakes for people. We were tying McDonald's balloons on other people's cars. And we had a big blow up Grimace costume that we were wearing around the paddock and disturbing people and giving judges massages without them knowing, and all kinds of ridiculous behavior. You know, the kind of behavior that kicks in when you've been up for 24 hours straight.
Of course. You know, you call him an aberration, which I think is very funny. And it made me think a couple things. If Grimace were a D&D monster, what would he be? Aberration is good. Maybe a monstrosity.
I think so.
You know, maybe a fiend. I'm not quite sure. But I
not
just
from
looked
this
up.
realm, I would say. Not from from somewhere else.
I looked up, I just Googled, because this good radio, aberration, and here's the top definition: a departure from what is normal, usual, or expected, typically one that is unwelcome.
Yeah, I think that describes Grimace.
And maybe you and your racing team.
Yeah.
So, okay. So how'd you do? I've been I've been waiting to ask you in real, like, I wanted to ask you in real life, but I'm like, no, I gotta do, if I'm going to talk to you, it might as well be for content. So
yeah, that's smart.
How did the race go?
The race didn't go as well as we had hoped. So this car is 50 some odd years old.
Yeah.
And, you know, lots of things are leaking and going wrong. I got to start the race this year, which was the first time I've ever started a race, which is absolutely nuts because everyone is taking these cars out that are put together with toothpicks and bubble gum, and they're putting the pedal, literally the pedal to the metal for the first time. So cars are blown up left and right.
Yeah.
Our car was running really smooth. And I don't want to get into too much car talk because I think nobody really cares about this. But the quick high level
what are
was
we click and clack?
Exactly.
Little car talk.
But I think you'll be interested to hear this. The issue that we were having was that we had overfilled the transmission with transmission fluid. And the car had so much fluid in it, in the transmission, that the normal way that the heat dissipates was not happening. So the transmission was getting so unbelievably hot, and it runs through the bottom and the rear of the car, that it was heating up the fuel tank. The fuel tank was getting so hot
that
it
seems
was
like
creating
a problem.
yes, it was creating pressure, and the gas was turning into the fuel was turning into a gaseous state, and it was forcing its way up through other parts of the car. So we went to go check our filter, and it was sopping wet with gasoline. Essentially, I was driving around a bomb at 105 miles an hour around a track. So luckily, stop the car. We see, smoke pouring out everywhere. We pull over. We do these fixes. We run back out. It happens again. And about 8 p.m., 9 p.m. or so, we finally got the fix and was able to figure out what was going on. You also have to wait for things to cool down, because if you open up a transmission and the transmission fluid is 300 degrees, you're going to scold yourself. So, there was some trial and error. Anyways, we were able to figure that out. I raced later that night from midnight to about 4, and a couple of stints there, which was wild, driving a car at that fast at that time of day. But yeah, anyways, because of that downtime, I think we placed somewhere in the 40s. It really took the wind out of our sails, but we survived. The car made it to the finish line. I had a really, really, really fun time. I cannot tell you how fun it is to race a car. But yeah, it was great.
Well, I'm sure that there was some excitement too, and just solving the problem, even if
Oh,
it's kind of killing your chances.
and there's other teams are coming over offering help. The judges are coming over and making fun of us for not knowing how to work a car.
Yeah,
It's a ton of
helpful.
fun, and the team came together and we're like totally draining. While a race is going on, we're completely draining a transmission and refilling it, and then 5 seconds go by, we start the car up and hit the track and race for another 12, 15, 16, whatever hours.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a blast.
What was you told me you were going to get some data. Do you have like what was your best lap, and was it you that was driving it, or did someone on your team end up having the best lap?
So I had my best personal lap I've ever had, but the nighttime numbers haven't come in yet. But
Interesting.
somebody on my team beat me by like 3 seconds, at least
Mm,
to the numbers I know. So when I get the nighttime numbers, I'll bring that to the pod and I'll let you know. But I'll tell you what. What the problem was is I could not tell. Am I driving faster because I'm getting better at this, or is night driving so scary that I feel like I'm going faster? And so I don't know the answer to that because I felt faster at night
yeah.
than I did during the day, but I also had more reps in. But it's kind of hard to tell. So, anyways, when I get that data, I'll let y'all know.
You're going that fast, but you're also doing this for hours. Do you
Yeah.
eventually settle in, or is it like 4 hours of like, just like gripping it and ripping it the whole time?
You settle in, and there's this combination of like you need to hit things hard and fast, but it's also like the less stress you're putting on the car, the faster you're going to be going. The more you keep your momentum going forward and less lateral, the faster your lap's going to be. So it's kind of finding this balance of like I'm hitting the gas as hard as I can after the turn, but also
Hmm.
making sure you're hitting this turn is smooth and you're not jerking yourself all around because when the track is 2.2 miles, and we're talking about seconds, so
Right.
it's all in these corners and these little mistakes is where it's all made up. So yes and no. It's hard to describe.
Yeah.
But yes, you do kind of get locked in.
It makes sense. I over the summer I did uh obviously not the same at all, but as close as you can get while still doing something that I could participate in. I did those like really fast go-karts out in
Oh yeah,
Vegas, you know. And I noticed that too. Like there was this one turn that I just could not figure out, that it was a straightaway to a full U-turn to another straightaway.
yeah,
And I just could never I only did a couple runs on the track, and every time it would just kill my momentum. Like I would feel like I would ace the turn because I do this awesome like Tokyo drift sort of thing, but then I'd be on the other side of the turn and just almost at a dead stop, and like
yeah.
could not, and it killed all my momentum and killed my time compared to the people that I was like trying to race. And but I imagine if you're doing it for 4 hours, you eventually start to figure out what is that perfect balance of
Yeah.
gas and brakes.
And you also like I was getting to the point where I was like I felt like I had nailed a couple of turns, and I'm going down this back straight. That's the straight where you go really fast. And I had this turn locked down, but I was thinking about two turns ahead, and I'm going like 100 miles an
Yeah.
hour. I slow down to 80 to make this turn, and I miss a gear change and almost spun the car out with, in traffic going 80 miles per hour because I just lost concentration on the turn I was thinking about, or the turn I
Hmm.
should have been thinking about when I was thinking about something two turns away. So you kind of have to, yeah, you really have to be in the moment, and you really have to be thoughtful of, I'm going to push this one turn this one time, and I'm going to do everything else the way that I've been doing it. And then like kind of iterate and iterate
Yeah.
and iterate and hopefully get, faster and safer and all that good stuff.
Did anybody blow up? Do you have like any body parts like fly across the hood of your car?
No, but I'll tell you what, when we learned what was happening to that gas tank when it was getting super, super hot, I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Like,
Yeah.
there's no safety precautions for an overheating fuel tank.
Yeah. Just
Scary.
exploding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, glad you survived. When's the
Yeah.
next one? Obviously, you're hooked. I can
It's
tell.
the off season now. The next one won't be till the spring next year. So
Okay.
we got time to chill, and we'll start working on the cars and swapping that transmission out and doing some other
Yeah.
things. But off season now.
they do one of these. This organization runs all over the states and probably elsewhere. And there's one that happens in Illinois that I've considered participating in. I don't think I'm a driver though. I think I could be a pit. I think I could be a pit crew guy. I think I would enjoy driving, but probably for everyone's safety, it's probably best if I'm not a driver. But I think it would be a lot of fun. So I might look at some buddies out here. We were talking about doing one.
Yeah, I would say anybody who's even curious, just go do a track day.
Mm-hmm.
There's tracks all over the place. You can have a driver do it with you. You can use their car. It's not cheap, but it's not outlandishly expensive. And you can even take your street car on it. And I think just getting on a track, you'll know immediately in the first couple of laps, oh, I really like this, or this isn't for
Yeah.
me. And for me, it was one of the more fun things I've ever done. But
Yeah.
go find your crappy local track and do it.
I loved the go-karts, but there's a stakes difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, there is.
Running into someone is very, very different.
You're not wearing a crash helmet. You're not wearing a fire suit and head and neck safety device. You don't have a roll cage. Yeah,
there was a woman that I was with though that she got T-boned on these things, and the visor on her helmet, because we were wearing racing helmets.
Yeah,
she got hit so hard that the visor flew off.
Ooh.
She had to go and do all this like concussion protocol and everything. So it's still pretty intense, but obviously nothing near what you all were doing.
This is disgusting. So I'll try to make this quick. And I went to high school with a guy. And I won't say his name, but I went to high school with a guy, and he was at I think it was a go-kart slick track where they have slick track tires, and the track is like extra slick, so you're scooting the back end out all over the place. And somebody hit him, and total freak accident. The guardrail, after he was crashed into, had a sharp point on it. And as the car started to roll over, and essentially the sharp part of the guardrail scooped out, hit one of his forearm muscles, and just completely took it off.
That out.
So we couldn't use, and it was irreparable. He couldn't really use that hand and had to kind of have his arm up all the time. But because of a go-kart accident, he lost a chunk of his hand or his arm.
Well, that's why never do anything, folks. You never know.
Just be safe out there.
Yeah. All right. One last thing I have to address before we get into the real.
We got a packed show today, Nate.
We got a packed show. We always do. It was brought to my attention that a few weeks ago on an episode, Ben, you said potatoes, and I said nice, a Gollum reference. Well, I have been educated.
It's Samwise. It's Samwise.
That it's Sam that says, and even though Gollum also says things like taters and whatnot, what I said was not 100% correct. And Ben, I'm here to say, I'm so fucking sorry. Ben, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to you. I'm sorry to our listeners. I'm sorry to Sean Astin. I'm sorry to that weird monkey man who plays Gollum and other things like that. I've never made a bigger mistake in my life, and I just wanted to apologize. But I'm learning.
I think this is the first time I've ever heard you apologize for anything, and it's unsettling, and I don't believe you.
There's literally nothing worse that I could have done than than swap those two in that conversation. So
sure.
I just wanted to say I'm sorry, and I mean it. I truly mean it.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Adam Wainwright last night, 199. How about that? How about that? It was a good game against the Orioles of all teams.
Yeah, I thought it was a great start. I thought he looked surprisingly good. He definitely had some help from the defense. But he did it. And I wouldn't even, we kind of said like, okay, let Adam go out there. Maybe he'll give up 5-5 and maybe the Cardinals offense can squeak out a win. But no, he had a good solid start. The bullpen looked fantastic behind them. It looked like the Cardinals had a pitching staff for the first time in a long time. And he looked great. I do want, like, when he was getting up to 88 last night, it looked like it hurt. Like, I'm glad this is his last season. It does not seem like he's having fun up there or out there on the mound at all. But you know what? He's leaving it all out there. And there's something about getting 199 that now I feel confident that 200 is coming. We have,
He's got
I think,
three.
three
He's got three
shots.
more starts. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if you watched the post game interview with him, but he said some things similar to what you're kind of mentioning too. Is that he very he's always a I think he's generally a very transparent person. Although I think sometimes his feelings aren't necessarily what the reality of the situation is. But like last night, he was saying things like, all season my body hasn't felt right.
Yeah.
Most of the season my mind hasn't been right. Like he was kind of admitting, I think, at multiple times to be like, I probably shouldn't have even been out there,
Yeah.
But tonight he felt good and he felt different and he felt like his mind was right and his body was okay, And yeah, I think you could see it. He looked good. He's looked all right now for last several starts, right? The offense hasn't lined up for him, and it finally did last night.
He doesn't look like he's going through hell anymore.
Yeah.
Which is good, I guess.
Well,
definitely good.
You know what it might be. We often have a problem on this show where big announcements are made right after we release. But fortunately, this one we caught it right before we started recording. I don't know if you saw this, Ben, but the Cardinals' Adam Wainwright is set to debut 3 original songs as part of his farewell weekend concert at Busch Stadium. So,
really?
Maybe he had that in the back of his mind. His future career as a country artist or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, what else boost album sales like giving a good strong start to the baseball season or a finish to the baseball season? I mean,
tale as old as time.
Oh yeah,
remember? Yeah, didn't Charlie Prine, wasn't he a Major League Baseball pitcher before he put out his first album?
Charlie Prine?
Yeah,
I don't know who that is.
John Prine. Damn it. Who did I just mix up?
Charlie Pride, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know.
Charlie Pride was
I
don't think John Prine was ever a baseball player.
It's Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash was a Major League starter before putting out his first record.
Charlie Pride was a baseball player. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, good for you. And a country music star. Anyway, I just totally lost my train of thought. But
yeah, well, I was trying to do a bad bit and I accidentally got something right, which is kind of breaking my mind right now.
Here's a bad bit. Is this take already exist on the internet somewhere? I'm sure it does, but maybe if Adam Wainwright concentrated on pitching more than country music, he would have been to 200 already.
You know what? That's a great point, Ben.
Waino,
you're on notice. Okay? Yeah. Get your mind out of the sheet music and get it back on the mound.
And to that point, what are you doing? Spending time with your wife and children, helping others that are less fortunate than you? Focus on the mound, bro.
Come on. You've got one. Do your job.
Do your job.
I'm sick of all these actors and baseball players doing anything other than their job.
Yeah. Yeah, what is he doing? Building wells for people who don't have access to clean water in Africa? Why don't you think about throwing your curveball? Exactly.
Throw a damn curveball. Wake up. Do your job.
My hard-earned money pays for your salary, and this is what you do?
Yeah. I think it's always great to remind people that you pay their salary. It's usually helpful.
That's how I start every interaction with a police officer. Just so you know, you work for me.
Yeah, it's helpful.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're 3 starts left. Hopefully Waino gets it and our long national nightmare can come to a close. We'll see. We wanted to check in on some of the we've really been following these guys all year. It's been arguably the only really exciting part of the season is how some of the younger guys have been performing, but have some interesting stuff to talk about here. Let's start with Liberatore, who is now coming out of the bullpen. He was a key part of this Waino win last night. What are you seeing of Liberatore as a bullpen reliever?
Well, we're seeing the heat. He hit 98 last night, which I know he's done in some starts, but it just looked like it had a little extra giddy up on it. And obviously, like, he's got a starter's arsenal. So if, I think that, like, I'll speak in a super, super generality. Like, I think if you take X starting pitcher and put them in 1 inning relief, their stuff raises their stuff ticks up by, let's say, 15 or 20% across the board, right? So you have
Mhm.
Liberatore, whose stuff has not really ever been an issue. I think it's consistency and location with Libby. But if you give
Mhm.
him that, a super talented guy, that 15 to 20% bump, and put him in short relief, I mean, it looks really good. It looks kind of like a no-brainer. There was a time
Yeah.
where this is how the Cardinals brought up their young guys, and I always thought that there was a lot of credence to it. You know, bringing up Carlos Martinez and having him be a fireball monster with breaking stuff out of the bullpen, and then go to start the next year. We've seen a tick up with Steven Matz, and I think we're seeing the same thing happen with Libby right now. And I think that I think it makes a lot of sense, like from the mental aspect. Come up,
Mhm.
give us everything that you have for one and a third inning, strike out major league pitchers, realize that you belong here, and then kind of transfer back into a starter's role. I am liking what I'm seeing. I think it's fine. I think it's a good experiment. I don't want this to be Liberatore's future, though. I still am buying the big league starter. Now, maybe he is a 3 or a 4 rather than a 1 or a 2, um, but we need it all, so that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. I don't have any really thing to add other than I hope that he has a great last 16 games and then he enters 2024 as competition for a spot in the rotation. And then I guess if he doesn't get it, I guess you would want him to be in like long relief in the at the major league level, so he's at least pitching multiple innings, and then he's one of the first back into the rotation if it becomes available. It's hard to say. We really have no idea what the 2024 rotation is going to look like, so it's really hard to predict where these guys are going to be. I mean, even Michaelis now, I'm starting to question: is he a lock for the 2024 rotation? You would think so, but he struggled so much. Like it's going to be wide open next year, and
Yeah, well, it's interesting talking about Michaelis. I think he's probably still a sure thing, but he gave an interview this week, kind of talking about how he needs to get back to swing and miss type stuff. And I think that that's pretty exciting. I do think that Michaelis could be somebody who could go to a drive line or some pitching factory
yeah,
type thing, and he's just like try how to describe this. Michaelis is just a super athletic, talented human being. And I'm not going to try to claim like I know anything about pitching mechanics, but I'm going to talk about it for 1 second. Like the guy pretty much throws 95 easy, but just using his arm. Like
yeah.
there is not really a rock and fire. He's just kind of like he's 6'4", 200 whatever, and he just throws the ball, and he has the gift of God to be able to throw at 95 and his
Right.
size and everything like that. I wonder if you got him into one of these pitching clinics, these drive lines, and he got a little more into his body, if he focused a little more on spin, I just wonder what could happen. I'm not saying we're going to get like a Justin Verlander out of it, but I
Right.
do wonder, and him kind of talking about how he needs to go into the offseason and retool and focus on swing and miss. I don't know. It's this time of the season. I can dream a little bit on that, on
Yeah,
what that might all look like, how we might go about that.
for sure. And if I were a betting man, I would bet for sure that he is a lock for the
Yeah,
rotation. But just with the rotation basically going into 2024 as as it is right now, barely in existence. Like I think there's every role is up for grabs here, and we'll see what they do and who they decide to add,
uh,
which will
honestly, Steven Matz might be the most locked in for the rotation right
Ye
now.
yeah, right? I mean, he looked the best. He's looked the best of the second half, even though he hasn't pitched for a couple weeks. He still, like, had the biggest impression, I think, of anyone. Him and Zach Thompson, I suppose, have done
Yeah,
the best to, raise their stock as far as going into 2024. Everyone else, like I know
yeah,
it's a cliche, but I really think you're gonna see, like, there is no one other than, whoever they go and sign for or trade for or whatever. Like,
right.
all the people that are getting starts right now or we're getting starts this year, I think it's an open competition for all of them to get a
Yeah.
spot. With Michaelis being in the lead of that list, I think by several steps, especially if he does do something like you're talking about.
Yeah, I was reading in the Athletic earlier today before we got on the pod, that uh, uh, Zach Thompson has how did they describe it? His breaking ball in the second half of the season this year, he has had the most breaking ball drop off of any player. So he's beating Wainwright, Rich Hill, Zach Greinke. I don't know, any massive curveball. Zach Thompson has the most dive out of anybody in baseball in the second half.
You also listed all of the like 40-year-old guys.
I'm just thinking
Adam
they're
Wainwright, Rich Hill, Zach Greinke.
their breaking balls might move more because of gravity, but they're still dropping off the
They
table.
can't throw it that far, so
Who's a contemporary curveball thrower? Lance McCullers, he's hurt.
There you go.
Aaron Nola. There you go. There, he's got a big nasty curveball. He's modern.
Yeah.
Shane Bieber. I know modern
Yeah.
players.
Sure. All right, let's move on. Jordan Walker, we've been talking about him just all second half.
Yeah.
We named our one of the dumbest episode titles that we've had in a while last week was named after Jordan Walker. So we just wanted to touch again though on his defensive improvements. We got some additional reporting, a little bit of a buzz around his defense over the last week. Ben, do you want to touch on that real quick?
Yeah, I mean, all that's really there to talk about is that his relationship with Willie McGee, and then the report, I believe this was by Katie Wu, also in The Athletic, was talking about their process of going out in the outfield, having balls hit at him, and him not only working on jumps but correcting his routes. And we've talked about it all season. He's got the speed, he's got the arm. He just has to get that down, or the like the actual footwork down. And it's hard, defensive metrics. I was looking into these defensive metrics, and they're all so squishy that I don't even really want to cite any until the season is over and we have a larger data set to talk about. But I think on the eyeball test and the way that he's charging after balls a lot more confidently, the way that he is laying up on balls and not letting things get past him, like was happening earlier in the season. I mean, just by the eyeball test alone, I think he's been fantastic. And I think we talked about this last week. You extrapolate his growth over time, and I'm feeling where I was kind of in the spot of, oh no, Jordan Walker's going to have to DH until Goldie Ornato is gone. I'm now at the point where I think that he will be a average right fielder very, very soon, maybe even next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can, if you look at basically every defensive metric from the start of the year to the end of the year, and you are just comparing small sample size to small sample size to small sample size, but even still, they all trend upward. And if you remember way back when it was announced that Walker made the opening day roster and how exciting that was, the thing that everyone remember that we got that fun video of like him going into Marmal's office and I mean it's a ton of fun,
good old days.
And the thing they kept saying about Walker and the reason why they were calling him up so early is that he had the mindset and the willingness to be coached and make adjustments based off of that coaching. And they said, I guess the thought process being like, you may be young for this, you may not be fully developed, but we think it's time for you to take that development to the major league level rather than at the minor league level. Now, of course, because they've been bad at communicating everything all year, they demote him like 3 weeks later, and it doesn't make any sense based off of what they were saying at the beginning. But that's all in the past now. He's pretty much locked in as a major league starter, and that's like, I think this is evidence of that. We have seen, if you've been paying attention, we have seen Jordan Walker improve at every element of the game at the major league level. He's got it. He's hitting better than he's ever hit. He's playing defense better than he's ever played defense. It's all improving. And I think Cardinal fans should be excited about 2024 and beyond. You can see, like, we haven't had this for a while, right? It's like Oscar Taveras, and we never really got the we didn't get that, so.
There's something I think in the very near future, like probably next year, very exciting about Nolan Gorman from the left and Jordan Walker from the right, kind of backing up the old vets in the lineup. And they're just so much power and youth. And I mean, the lineup gets really, really scary really quickly and long when those guys start to click and perform.
Well, let's talk about Gorman,
Yeah.
who was today placed on the IL, which is a bummer. I mean, he may get a few more games at the right at the end, but because it was backdated, but he's he's likely done for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But you dropped a couple of numbers here that I was actually looking at myself the other day. Do you want to throw them in there real quick?
Yeah, well, yeah, he had a really rough August, just not making a lot of contact and striking out quite a bit, which is, part of Gorman's game. He's going to strike out.
Yeah,
That being said, he is walking at a pretty nice clip this year, so we'll take it. But he's been protected against left-handed pitching for the most part, but he's been hitting it more and more recently. On the season, he has an OPS plus against right-handed pitchers of 115, and against left-handed pitchers his OPS plus is 126. And I'm shocked by that for a number of
yeah,
reasons. But I was curious about that is because he hit against in this Orioles series, he hit absolute monster home run off a left-handed pitcher. And his hands are so quick that he's just, it makes sense to me that if you throw him a breaking
yeah.
ball, whether you're left or right, you throw down the middle, whatever it is, he's going to tag
Hmm.
it. But yeah, I think that's something that's really exciting. And I think that when you're looking at those types of numbers and coming into 2024, you're really thinking about Nolan Gorman being your everyday first baseman, like 140 plus starts
Second
at
baseman.
that position. Right.
Yeah. You said first base.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
And maybe some starts there
um,
too.
I mean, possibly. Yeah. I mean, that OP, like, it's very common. I've been saying this all season, but like what we're seeing out of Gorman is the normal progression for a really good Major League Baseball player. Maybe not a superstar, but someone who's going to be really good. Sophomore year, we see significant improvements across the board. And it's very common for a left-hander to not get a ton of at bats against lefties early on in their career. And they basically have to prove that they can do it all year before they get those, or they can do it consistently before they get
Right.
it. Just you become an everyday full starter, no questions, right? And we're starting to see it. It's crazy that he has a higher OPS plus against left-handed pitchers. I mean, it's a considerably smaller sample size, but like,
Right.
what else can you do? He's hitting the ball hard most of the time. He's playing against a lefty, so I think you're right. I think we'll see him as an everyday player next year. Just where is it in the
Yeah.
on the field?
And
We'll find out.
I think another exciting thing with him, I was kind of going over his baseball savant page and just kind of looking through and the underlying metrics. And I think he's, while he's had a fine year, I think he's actually underperforming what his underlying metrics and hard hit and average exit velo, barrel percentage, all those fun stats are saying that he should probably have even better results than we're seeing right now. So yeah, I don't have much else to say other than Nolan Gorman is a really good baseball player, and I'm excited to watch him play and hopefully be healthy next year.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's so much of it. Yeah. So to your point, one of my favorite stats for looking at, like, I think one of the cleanest for looking at the underlying numbers and what his results should be is expected weighted on base average. So WOBA or X WOBA. And so his WOBA, which is the results, is a 333, which is good.
Yeah.
It, you know, this is a lot like, um, if you understand what a good on base percentage is a pretty good corollary to WOBA, So if you have a 330 at the major league level, you'd be happy with that. It obviously could be better, but you'd be happy with that. His ex WOBA is a 351. So he's underperforming that by almost 20 points. And so, uh, if he could do a 350 at the major league level, that's a very good offensive player.
Oh
And
yeah.
if he's doing that from second base, you're even happier.
Yeah. Yeah. It's we were talking about Kyle Schwarber earlier in the year. I think he's already kind of eclipsing that performance, not on the home run side, but just on the overall player. The
Yeah.
fact that he gets on, he actually makes contact, like hits for some average. I think Kyle Schwarber just broke 200 as for his batting average, which is mind boggling to me. But I think Kyle Schwarber might be underselling Gorman all of a sudden.
Yeah, you really don't want the profile that Kyle Schwarber
It's
gives.
extreme.
If it works perfectly, you can have a very successful season. But even with his 43 home runs that he has right now, he has put up an F WAR of 1.4.
Well, I don't know if it is necessarily Kyle Schwarber's fault that the Philadelphia Phillies are making him play so much in the outfield. He should be
Yeah,
a DH.
he
Love me
should
some K
be.
Schwarbs. He is fun to watch. Great hitter or powerful hitter, but he should
Mhm.
not be shagging balls in the outfield. It just is a bad thing to watch.
Yeah, that's definitely suppressing his WAR total by a lot. But again, it shows to the if you're comparing Gorman's overall ability to help your team win games, uh like he has the potential to be far more valuable than Schwarber.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
we'll take
defense
that.
and offensive. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the last 16 games. We're here at the end of it. We've got 10 games that are combined against the Brewers and the Reds, and we're at the end of it. So I don't
Does
know.
it
What do
feel
you?
good?
I don't know, man. I haven't felt this feeling in a long time. At least I guess not since 2018. If
Yeah,
being realistic, is that like it's been over for a long time, but I
yeah,
love having baseball. So to me, 16 games left of the Cardinal season. I think I've grieved the Cardinal season already. I'm more upset that baseball has roughly 16 games left. And I love the postseason, so we'll be tracking that and watching all of it. But like I'm more just sad that baseball's nearing the
yeah,
end of the season. The Cardinals, I'm like, it is what it is at this point. I what I'm looking for is the same stuff that we've been talking about for a while now. I really would love to see Mason Wynn start to connect a little bit more offensively, just so we get a little bit of a glimmer of some progression for next year. I'm excited to continue to see 16 more games of Jordan Walker. I'm interested to see what Liberatore does out of the bullpen and how some of these arms finish up the season. But it's such at this point, it is such a small sample size. Even if Wynn hits well for 10 of those games, it doesn't
yeah.
quite tell you that much about what 2024 might look like.
No,
But
it doesn't tell me. It's not like really going to be good at predicting future outcomes, right?
right.
But I do think just for Mason Wynn and for the fans, it would be great to see a little bit of production there. And I think I'll extend that to, seeing Alec Burleson, who
Yeah.
confounds me because every at bat I see from him, I am like, that was a great at bat. Oh, he stung that ball. He just is like, and I don't have the number in front of me right now. Is he just getting BABIP to absolute hell, and the results just aren't happening? But every time I watch him, I'm always impressed by his plate appearance. So seeing balls fall for
Yeah.
him a little bit more, I think would be really great. I already said Luke and Baker. Seeing kind of the younger guys just perform a little bit more. Lars Nootbaar seems like he's already back. Seeing Tyler O'Neill continue to be moderately healthy and stay uninjured would be great. But all that being said, Nate, I'm here for the Richie Palacios. Let him run him out every day. Like I think we
Yeah.
talked about it. I don't think the guy's going to run a 934 OPS all year next year, and he's going to take over center or anything like that. But this guy might really be your fourth or fifth outfielder next year, depending on what kind of moves the Cardinals make to augment their pitching staff.
Hmm.
And he's fun to watch. I don't know. He wants to be there. He plays his ass off. He has surprising pop from the left side,
Dude,
and
I mean,
he can go get it.
I said it. I think in the Bird scored, but Wayno needs to buy Palacios like a truck or something.
A
Um,
watch, a truck.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
actually they made the same joke to him in that interview I was talking about earlier. They asked him if he's going to buy him a steak dinner, and he goes, "Richie, I'll buy whatever he wants. He come over and ask me. He can have whatever he wants," or
yeah.
some charming Wayno answer. Um, Yeah, he's been fun, and depending on how this offseason shakes out, he may be playing himself into a fourth outfielder platoon role. We talked about load management last week with Tyler O'Neill. Like, there's something there. Also, his brother hit a home run yesterday too, which is that's got to be fun for them.
That is fun.
His brother seems to be doing pretty well too. So yeah, I mean he seems good. Like major league starter, maybe not, but definitely like contributing major league player. To go back to Burleson real quick, Burleson, when we've been talking about these guys where it's like everything looks right, but the results aren't there. We talked about like Joe Kelly and like Palante and stuff like that. These pitchers, it's easier to equate to, but Burleson is that sort of the same thing. He is a strikeout rate in the top 6% of the league. He has a 13.1% strikeout rate. And he is definitely getting bit by some good process, bad results. Right now, to go back to that same stat I was using before, his WOBA is 294. Not great. But his expected WOBA is 321, so almost a 25-point swing in expected WOBA, and so like there's definitely something there. I think there's a reason why the Cardinals are playing him every day, and it's not just because they want to lose games. I do think you could see a world where this starts to click. He's like all of these numbers, they're fantastic. He has a 90.3 average exit velocity. His max exit velocity is 110.6, 12% or a launch angle of 12.1. Everything. He's got his walk rate's a little lower right now, 6.4, but that's still pretty good for a big beefy boy like that. And then that incredibly low strikeout rate, like you would just think it would be going better for him. So
if I had to pick my sleeper candidate for 2024 right now, like Alec Burleson might be at the top of the list of who is going to have the biggest swing in production from 23 to 24, just because of all those numbers you're talking about. And like all that is true. And the eyeball test, like he just looks like he has a plan. He looks like he's always making good contact. And he's got a 255 BABIP right now, which is pretty low.
Well, he's not fast, so he's likely to be a guy who will carry a lower BABIP, right? He's not beating out his infield singles. He has to get the ball out of the infield, but still 255 is too low.
That's too low. He had a hit in the Baltimore series, a screaming ball that almost went over that left field wall. It didn't. He was trying to stretch a single into a double, which I think everybody else on the Cardinals staff, maybe except for Kisner, could have done. And he gets thrown out, and it's a single and an out, which should have been a home run or a double. And it's just like that was kind of like the encapsulation of his season. It's just not always going his way.
That's why we call him Chief Beef.
Chief Beef.
Yeah, I'm still a believer in him, and like we said, some of those underlying numbers are nearly elite. That strikeout rate, and you talk about having a plan. It always just looks better when you are never striking out, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I think he's a pretty big candidate to be traded, but I also wonder, teams usually like to acquire. If they're acquiring a big league level player, they are usually looking for that big league level talent, unless you're trading to a rebuilding team. So I don't know. His trade value feels really weird to me right now. It feels like it'd be a sell low. But I do struggle to see where his plate appearances come from next year, assuming like we're entering the season, everyone's healthy, everyone's back, and you have your standard, like your core starting outfield and DH and whatnot. I don't know where those at bats come from. So I do think he's a pretty top candidate to be traded to another savvy team who sees the same underlying stats as we do. But I just also, I don't know if you're getting the value you would want for him. I have to imagine some teams were asking about him at the trade deadline too. And probably the Cardinals were not getting the value that they see out of him. So we'll see. But I mean, it's gotta be like, if we are trading for a starting pitcher, which everyone assumes that they will be, you're going to have to give true value to get someone good. And, a Brendan Donovan, a Gorman, and Alec Burleson, you can see this package of guys like that. It's the only way you're going to get a good starter, and Burleson's probably the add-on behind someone else being the centerpiece.
Yeah. No deal is getting done around Burleson, but he's the cherry on top for sure.
Yeah. And then we're all sad
no,
when he hits 280 and 28 bombs and with a 360 OBP or something, like just a real complete offensive threat.
The Rockies need a first baseman. Too bad the Rockies don't have any pitching to give to the Cardinals anymore.
Or what are you getting from the Rockies?
German Marquez, he just got extended.
I saw that. Congratulations.
He might be healthy. He might be healthy at some point.
Nolan Jones seems good.
Nolan Jones is good, but trading Nolan Jones for Alec Burleson would be the dumbest. That would be not as dumb as the Nolan Arenado trade, but right up there.
So then it's perfect.
It's perfect. So two other things before we move on with these last 16 games. The Cardinals do remain 3 games behind the Pirates. So I'm not feeling great about that one, but we'll see. There's still 16 games to play. None of them against the Pirates, of course. And the Cardinals currently have the 5th worst record in baseball. And that if they sit where they are right now, which, it could go up or down, but as of right now, they have a 10% chance of winning the draft lottery. So getting the number 1 overall pick. So, I mean, if you're smart, you can gain yourself 6.5 percentage points by tanking the rest of the season and trying to dip below Kansas City or the A's. Is it worth it? Is it worth the moral gut punch? I don't know. 6%, 6.5% is not nothing. But the Cardinals are going to we'll be excited about the draft lottery this year. The Cardinals are going to be, have a real chance of actually getting a top pick here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it'll be fun.
How much would baseball hate that if the Cardinals with a 10% chance, first losing season in forever.
Yeah, we get the overall, but I think we deserve it, frankly, Ben. As Cardinal fans, we
never get to pick the top of the draft. Yeah.
I know we never get to pick at the top of the draft. Come on. Manfred, come on.
Just once. Please. And I want some ice cream too, please.
Ooh. Little Burleson cherry on top.
Sure.
Come on.
Hey.
All right. Well, we've got more to talk about. We're gonna look at some of the pitchers from the international market. But before we do, it's incredibly important that we remind everyone that this show is listener supported. That's right. It's because of listeners like you that we're here every week. And some elite listeners, some listeners who have joined the revolution, have also decided to support the show on Patreon. If you like the type of content we're providing, want to support its production, its growth, consider joining our Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Subscribers at any level get 2 things. 1, you get access to our Bird Score. It's our private Discord server. We're having a great time in there. Our fantasy baseball season has entered the playoffs. And C70's strategy of only drafting St. Louis Cardinals went about as well as you would expect. And props to the Beefy Boys for having the best record and getting a first round bye. I suspect their defeat will be quick in the second round, but we'll see. We're having a good time. We'll be doing it again next year. If you want to join a fantasy league with us, we'd love to have more of you and expand the league. So join for that. And also you get usually early access to episodes. Now that is dependent on when we record. Sometimes we're recording mere hours before the release, but most of the time I can get it out to you often the day before. So if that is appealing to you, or you just want to support the show, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. And also, if you like the show and want to support it in a different way, a review on your favorite podcast platform really does help. Ben, where can people find us online otherwise?
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter @TalkAboutBirds. We're on Instagram @TalkingAboutBirds. We are on Spotify. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify if you prefer that. We have a TikTok. Go check us out on the TikTok. Email us any thoughts, questions, concerns, criticisms to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And you can find all of that information at talkingaboutbirds.com. talkingaboutbirds.com. Again, that is talkingaboutbirds.com.
Talkingaboutbirds.com. All right. So there are two pitchers that I think are very interesting for the Cardinals to pursue this year.
Yeah.
In the offseason. That one we've already talked about. If you've been following the upcoming offseason at all, you're probably familiar with this name. I always want to make sure that I get his name correct, even though I'm going to end up screwing it up anyway. Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Fantastic name and incredible pitcher coming out of the Japanese league. Just threw a no-hitter over the weekend. He'll be coming over at 25 years old.
Yeah.
Similar to the Ohtani deal, can get a full major league contract. But the price is going to be high for this guy, and rightfully so. Like, he might be the best pitcher on the market this offseason. Yeah. You never know with guys coming over from another league, but all signs point to him being incredible. And so I've seen numbers of upwards of $200 million for this guy.
The Mets ownership and leadership group has already said that they're prepared to pay over $150 million to land this guy. And while I don't think that immediately takes him out of the Cardinals running, I do think that competing with Steve Cohen,
they're not going to win it
out of the Cardinals running. Yeah,
it does. And, I mean, it sucks, but it might even be the right. Like, we want the Cardinals to go out and spend money, but getting in a cash war with Steve Cohen just doesn't seem very prudent. We've seen him. Once he says, I want a guy, they'll go and spend whatever money. What do they try to pay Correa for, and that fell apart, probably lucky for them, but we've seen how much money he's willing to splash out. But
Correa's kind of been trashed this year, but I mean, he gave $90 million to Scherzer and Verlander, and that didn't work. He's going to get this guy. I have a feeling he is going to get this guy. And I don't think the Mets are going to sign Ohtani. Yamamoto.
Entire leadership groups are going to Japan and watching these games right now.
Yes.
There's I think the Cubs owner was at a game. The Mets group has been at major, people who don't often actually go and do scouting are being seen at these games. So I think, there's Ohtani is the big story, and then Yamamoto might be the next biggest story in the offseason of where he goes. And again, rightfully so. This dude is you're likely adding a number one ace to your team and someone that you'll be able to get at age 25, which almost never even happens in the MLB, right? So it's a bit of a unicorn.
No, pitchers at that age and this ability level just don't come up. I think Jack Flaherty is going to be the youngest pitcher who with MLB experience becoming a free agent next year, and love Jack Flaherty, but he is not, anything close to what Yamamoto is bringing. Another name that I do think is going to be much more in the Cardinals world, and is somebody who could probably, it seems like early reports are showing that he might be more in the Kodai Senga realm, which I believe Kodai Senga got 5 years, $75 million, is this left-handed pitcher named Shota oh, damn it. I had it earlier. Imanaga. Shota Imanaga, who is a lefty starting pitcher. He will be 30 going into next year. And I was watching some video from this guy, and he has a fiery arm with great breaking stuff. And again, somebody who they just announced will be posted for MLB this upcoming offseason. And I'm really excited about him all of a sudden.
I think this is a legitimate target for the St. Louis Cardinals. If we've seen Senga has done really well. We've also seen the Cardinals have some success in bringing over players from this league and other Asian leagues. Kim, so as a couple recent examples. And, he seems like someone that you could probably get for less than $100 million. I mean, he's not going to be cheap.
No,
I think a lot of people are going to want this guy, but he's not going to be the $200 million that Yamamoto is going to go for. and he's young enough, 30 as a pitcher. You know, you can still have several years of good success, and I think he looks like exactly the type of guy. If the Cardinals are going to go and spend money on pitching, which it sure seems like they're going to, I would take this over a lot of the guys that you were seeing in this similar price range and age range that are going to be available.
And I think that like with you kind of mentioned it, but with Kodai Senga's success this year, obviously Otani's Otani. You can't really compare him to other Japanese league pitchers, but I think we're really seeing we're at a time period now where Nippon professional baseball, I think, is being viewed a little differently. These players are coming over and contributing immediately. Masataka Yoshida's had a pretty solid year and has had a couple of heaters that have really stuck out. Like, I think that the quality of play is rising. I mean, we saw what happened in the WBC. There's a lot of talent over there, and we're seeing Japanese players perform. So yeah, I think the Cardinals should, and I'm not at the point where I'm going to be disappointed, but getting this lefty, getting Shota, I think would be a lot of fun for a ton of reasons.
Yeah.
And if he's your number 2 or 3 going into next year, feel really good about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've said this on the show before, and I don't really have any data to back it up, but I think the splitter is the new secret weapon in baseball. And, we've seen Senga is doing it. That's what Kevin Gausman throws. And, he's fallen off a little bit, but for quite a while now, he's been a Cy Young candidate. It's just not the most commonly thrown pitch. And when it's done effectively, it seems to really, really be messing up major league hitters. And this guy throws a fantastic splitter. I think he's exactly who they should target. Like, if I'm the Cardinals, I'm looking for one guy from the MLB side. We've talked about Sonny Gray. He's having a fantastic year. We're just assuming the Cardinals aren't going in on the $200 million guys, the Nolas and whatnot. But if you could walk away with a Gray, this guy, and then trade for one, successful major league starter, hopefully young.
About Kirby, that guy, he doesn't know how to be a Mariner. He doesn't have the stick-to-itiveness. He needs to rub some dirt on it. Maybe the Mariners need to get rid of him and he can come over here.
Let's talk about that for a second. I said this on Twitter. I wanted to hear your take on it. So Kirby got some shit for saying that he didn't think he should be out there in the 7th because he'd already thrown 90 pitches, and then he gave up a game-tying home run. And he got a lot of shit for it. People like, he don't got that dog in him, And I had like such an opposite reaction to it, like, don't we want these guys like being honest and self-aware and knowing when they're putting themselves out there in the best spot or not? I don't know. I just, like, I understand, we're used to people going out there and saying only exclusively, I will do anything and everything. I will die for this team at any moment. But like, how many times have we heard people get hurt because they're out there where they shouldn't be and they were afraid to tell, or like games get blown because they were afraid to tell? I don't know. I thought it was a good bit of honesty from him.
Yeah, kid, he's 25 years old. He's got all the talent in the world. Obviously, he's a fierce competitor. And you ask him a dumbass question right when he comes out of the game, or just post the game where he's fired up, and a 25-year-old super athlete responds emotionally and everyone jumps on him. I'm sure he didn't pick his words perfectly, but guess what? He was right. They lost the game. So, and I know he was probably staying in a little bit longer, getting close to his pitch limit because they're trying to save the bullpen, which, Seattle's having their own issues up there. But it comes down to, he was right. They lost. So what are you going to say? The guy, I mean, this guy is would not be surprised if this guy is a Cy Young contender in the next handful of years. Like, I really think he's got the juice. So anyone questioning his, his ability to keep his head down and work hard and pitch well, like, right. Are you kidding me? This kid's a beast.
Love it. I just love it when, fans and other people are like, this guy's not a competitor. It's like, man, you don't get to the major league level by not being a competitor. There's obviously different levels of it, and there's different outward presentations of your competitive level, but all these ding dongs sitting on their couches being like, this guy's not got the dog in him. just
also the league is different now than when Mark Mulder pitched in it. Like now, if you let up on one at bat as a pitcher, if you take your foot off the gas for a second, if you're not feeling great, like everyone can take you over the wall. Did not used to be like that.
Yeah.
So no, I'm fine with it. And again, like, well, he's a 25-year-old phenom. I think he's going to be a star. We're getting on this kid for saying, we're getting on this kid for saying something slightly emotional right after a start that didn't go his way. Okay. Who cares?
Better watch out. He might expand his mouth really wide and suck everyone up and steal all their powers.
That's a Kirby joke. I liked it.
It's like the worst version of a Kirby joke, too. I was trying to think
it
of
was
something
barely
better,
even a joke. You just kind of explained what Kirby does.
Yeah.
You suck.
We should trade for Kirby.
Kirby, Gilbert, Miller, or Wu. I will take any of them.
Any of them. Burleson, well, they love to acquire outfielders. They could have Burleson. He might work for them.
Emerson Hancock. He went down with an injury. I'll take any of those guys.
Yeah. They're all good. All right. So we'll see. We just wanted to talk about these guys. I think Yamamoto, everyone's been talking about, and Imanaga, like you've maybe you're really, following it. You've probably started to see his name around even more, but we'll track this. And again, I think he is like such an obvious choice for the Cardinals, and I hope they are able to pull the trigger. We have a couple series coming up. Our best friends, the Philadelphia Phillies, are coming to St. Louis. So we get to see Kyle Schwarber do his thing again. I mean, what do you think? We've seen the Phillies a lot recently, it feels like.
Yeah.
But what do you think about with this Phillies series?
Yeah, I mean, this team was good. They have a lot of offensive firepower. They're getting good performances from unlikely names on the pitching side, such as Mike Lorenzen. Matt Strahm has kind of really held their pitching staff together, which I did not think that Matt Strahm had this in him. So shout out to the Phillies for locating that and acquiring that and making him start and all that stuff. But what's really scary right now is that Trey Turner has absolutely lit his hair on fire, and Bryce Harper is starting to hit really well too, coming back from his Tommy John surgery. But Trey Turner has been an absolute I think he has 16 home runs in the last 40 days or something like that.
I know it's 11 home runs in the last 13 games.
He still is yet to be caught stealing. He's playing a great shortstop. Everything that was wrong with him at the beginning of the season is just completely gone. He's back to being superstar Trey Turner. So with him and Brycey Boy at the top of the lineup, it's not going to be great.
Yep. Good test.
Not looking forward to it.
Not looking forward to it. And again, though, we're just adding to that potential for that 6.5% gain in the.
No kidding. Trey Turner over the last 23 games has a 1,300 OPS.
Pretty
good.
Gives you
any idea? Yeah.
After that, the Brewers. What we thought, for a long time, we thought this was going to be a critical series, potentially division deciding series. The Brewers come to St. Louis for 4 games.
Yeah.
The Brewers are currently up 4 games on the Cubs, 4 games up with 16 left to play. I would say it would be fun for the Cardinals to play spoiler to the Cubs or to the Brewers here, but I don't even know if I actually feel that way. I kind of don't want the Cubs to win the division. So I'm not saying I want the Cardinals to lose to the Brewers, because I just don't like the Cardinals losing to any NL Central team.
Yeah.
I still want to beat them. But, we talked about the Red series last week and how much fun it would be to be spoiler to the Reds.
Yeah.
And I felt that very strongly. And I would love for the Cardinals to be spoilers to the Cubs. I don't feel that as strongly for the Brewers. But
no,
it would
I
be.
think, I think what we should all be wanting to happen, if we're trying to be aspirational for what the Cardinals can do, it is beat up on the Brewers a little bit, because the Cubs are playing the Diamondbacks, which that's a pretty even matchup. Then they're playing the Pirates and the Rockies. Then they're playing the Braves. So it gets a lot tougher there. But then the final series for the Cubs and Brewers this year is a 3-game series in Milwaukee against them. And I would like it to come down. I would like them to be tied coming into game 162, and they have an absolute knockdown, drag out fight for divisional championship. And then whatever winning team kind of limps into the playoffs and is shot behind the barn quickly in the first series of the playoffs.
So, all right, I love it. Yeah, everyone struggles into the playoffs. They run themselves dry, and then they're eliminated quickly, whoever they are from the NL Central.
Yeah. And I think that would, I think it would go a long way to help the Cubs if the Cardinals can beat up on the Brewers here in this 4-game series. Even 2 out of 4, split the series, I think would be nice. And the Cubs might be able to come back and beat up on the Pirates and the Rockies and do something. Well, but that's what I'm hoping for.
Surprisingly, the Cubs occupy the last wild card spot right now. So as it stands, no one saw this coming. There are 2 NL Central teams in the playoffs right now. So we'll see how that shakes out. They have a 2-game lead on Arizona.
It pains me to say this, but I'm trying to be somewhat objective. But the Cubs are playing good baseball right now, and them calling up Crow Armstrong, who in his 1 second in the big leagues already looks like a top shelf center fielder. This kid is super talented.
Yeah.
And them having a defense built around Armstrong, Nico Horner, and Dansby Swanson. I don't know. They're a good little team. They're constructed in kind of a fun way, and I hate even saying that. But they're kind of fun to watch right now.
Well, let's not talk about it too much more because I just don't like that. So let's go into our league news segment. What do you got for us, Ben?
Yeah, so the Mets, David Stearns, former, I think one of the better president of baseball operations in baseball when he was with the Brewers, other than that Josh Hader trade, but did a lot with a little. He has now been hired by the Mets and will be taking over as president of baseball operations in Queens there. I think this is a fantastic hire. If I was Steve Cohen, I'm not sure if there's a GM that I would want more than David Stearns. And I think that they were talking about, we want to be the East Coast Dodgers. And with the pocketbooks and now the brains that they have, I think that, the NL East is, I just think he's a really good executive. I think he's a really smart baseball guy. And given those resources, it's going to be a really bad thing for the rest of the league.
38 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for him.
Smart cookie.
Smart cookie. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think it's been universally called a great move. And I'm sure he's, it's going to be great for him too. Except for he has to work with should be in prison billionaire Steve Cohen. So
I feel like he'll be okay with that.
I think he'll probably be okay with it.
Yeah. Moving down the line, the Padres, Yu Darvish has been shut down for the rest of the season with a stress reaction in his elbow. So unfortunately, no chance of him coming back. I've been watching some Padres games recently, and this team will just forever confound me. I feel like the 2023 Padres team will just be burned into my brain as of one of the most disappointing performances I can remember. They're just not clicking. It's just not all coming together. They'll go in and hit a couple of early home runs off Lance Lynn. And then the Dodgers will just put 7 runs up on them in 2 innings and the game's over, and they are just not coming back. But anyways, I don't need to rant about the Padres, but he's
got
down.
A stress reaction. Try being a Cardinal fan this year.
Hey, that was pretty good.
I was looking at something earlier. It was if you flipped the results of all the 1-run games in baseball this year, what would the standings look like?
Yeah.
And like the 2 biggest winners from that flip are the St. Louis Cardinals and the San Diego Padres. Padres also have a horrible record in 1-run games, which is a notoriously fluky stat. And so we would be it would actually be Cubs in first place. Cardinals right now only 2 or 3 games behind the Cubs, I think, for first place with a positive record by a lot of games, and the Padres, I think, were also in second place behind the Dodgers in their division. So, they're having an equally fluky season as we are. So
ready to flip the page to next year for sure.
Yes.
In Blue Jays news, talking about other birds, Alek Manoah unlikely to pitch again at any level this season after failing to report to AAA after his last assignment.
Man, what a monumental collapse. Your pick for the 2023 AL Cy Young, a very popular pick. I think one of the more commonly selected people to win the Cy Young this year. And it seems like his time with the Blue Jays is likely done. I don't, this happens every once in a while where dudes just bail. And I don't know if he's like fully bailing and he'll pull a Yairo Munoz and just end up with the Athletics or something. Or what, but like, man, what a crazy collapse. Like I can't think of a time we've seen such a young star have this happen.
Yeah, and that's it. It's coming from the heights that he was at a team that is like in their competitive window in the toughest division in baseball. And not only him be completely ineffective, but then also have a bad attitude about it is super bizarre. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it would be a little shocking to me to learn that he never pitches for the Blue Jays again, just because he is valuable, young. Like, there's still got to be something in there. But yeah, I can't really think of a comp to this situation in baseball.
Yeah, no, me neither. It's crazy. I wish the best for him. I don't know. It makes you wonder if there's something underlying happening. Like I don't want to make assumptions about anybody, but it just makes you feel like there's got to be something else going on here. Or is it just poor performance led to bad attitude, leading to not showing up to your assignment? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Not showing up is such a weird way to handle that. Just I'm taking my ball and going home. But yeah, I hope he's okay. That's a good point. That's a much more empathetic take than I was kind of sitting here with. But yeah, that's good. Moving down, talking about the Brewers again. The Brewers, who acquired Josh Donaldson after he was let go from the Yankees, are now pulling him up for the playoff run. And I think that this is kind of funny in the sense. I think this is emblematic of like where the Brewers are at and why I kind of think they don't even really deserve to be at the top of this crappy division. Like this is their reinforcement that they're calling in. But anyway, somewhat interesting. I think like there's a world where I could see Josh Donaldson being an impact player for a couple of weeks for the Brewers. It's a good offensive ballpark. He can still pick it at third. Maybe this is an impactful move, but probably not.
Well, anybody with a OPS over 700 is going to positively impact the Milwaukee Brewers lineup. So you could see, like it's a lottery ticket, right? This guy has done it before, former MVP, former, one of the best offensive players in baseball. Change of scenery, couple weeks with a team. If he gets hot, you run it. And if not, you say, well, it didn't really cost us anything.
He wouldn't be the first Yankee to leave New York this year or last year and start performing better. Look at what Aaron Hicks is doing in Baltimore.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Joey Gallo getting out of New York was huge.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yankee. We'll talk about the Yankees this offseason, but that is another club that I think I could do a whole separate podcast on. Like, what the hell are you guys doing over there?
Yeah.
All right. Last thing I have on my league news, and I think everybody's heard this by now, but I thought we would have to talk about it. Mike Trout is reportedly the Angels are openly reported to be interested in trading Mike Trout, pretty much for the first time in recent memory. And we kind of talked about the Angels situation on the last pod or the one before that. But the Angels competitive window is completely non-existent to me. I think it makes sense to trade Mike Trout as soon as possible. I think the real question is like, what kind of value does Mike Trout have?
I've been trying to think about this from a Cardinal perspective because it's tough, man. It's Mike Trout. He is the best hitter of this generation. Inner circle Hall of Fame. And he's young for that level of accomplishment, right?
He's 31 years old.
Yeah. So like you think, wow, okay, I can acquire the one of the best hitters of all time. Legitimately, he's one of the best hitters of all time.
Yes.
And he's only 31. So you would
He's
assume,
Mickey Mantle.
yeah, right. So it's like, oh my God, I can get Mickey Mantle at age 31. Like, whatever you want, here you go. I'll take Mike Trout. Who doesn't want Mike Trout? But then you start to peel it back a little bit and you say, okay, well, he hasn't played more than 140 games in like 6 or 7 seasons.
Over the
Multiple of
last 3
those.
seasons, he's averaging 79 games.
Yeah. And then you recognize that he is owed $37 million a year for the next 7 years.
$260 million.
And everything just starts to collapse as far as like, how do you properly evaluate a trade for this guy? You know, you get, it's like the complication of the Arenado trade without the guaranteed value of Arenado, you know, like what are you giving to the Angels in return for a $37.5 million paycheck for a guy who may not play half the season,
Yeah.
you know?
And
Um,
Mike Trout has to approve it.
yeah. Which I
And
assume he would. You know,
yes.
no, I don't think any rebuilding team is trading for him. So he's almost
No.
certainly going to a better situation. You know?
And I don't know this by any means, but I would, turning it back to the Cardinals conversation, I would imagine he would approve a trade to the Cardinals if
Yeah.
that was something that was on the table. And I think that, another question is, what is Perry Manassian looking for? I would think like it's really hard to trade Mike Trout, like full stop, right?
Yeah.
But the Angels are in such a spot where you'd think they would have to go after quantity over
Mm-hmm.
anything. Like obviously they don't
Yeah.
want like a bunch of quad A players that'll, never turn anything, but you would think they'd have to get as much quantity back as possible because they are so far away on pitching, position player, depth, period.
Yeah. I would imagine it's going to look like, some of the trades like the Mets just did. It's all going to come down to how much money are they willing to give back to the team. That will determine the level of prospect that they're going to get.
Right.
Because if they're going to just trade him flat out, where all they like the acquiring team just straight up takes that $37.5 million a year contract, you have to imagine the prospect haul is not going to be that great. Like that's part of the problem with these long-term, super high value, or high dollar contracts. So you could see a world where like the Mets are like, well, sure, we don't care about money. We just got a whole bunch of good prospects for money. We'll give you 2 of them, and now we have Mike Trout. It's
Yeah.
like, well, shit, the Mets now have Mike Trout. Or maybe the Cardinals, dump a bunch of mid to high level prospects and get them. I really don't think the Cardinals are even going to have that conversation with the Angels. It's probably the right call because I think if you're acquiring Mike Trout and they're not covering the entire contract, now you're spending your money on offense instead of pitching, and that's not where the
Yeah.
Cardinals' problems are. As much as I would love like imagining a world where you have Arenado, Mike Trout, and Paul Goldschmidt back to back to back is the dream of like 2016, right? Imagining having those 3 guys back to back to back in your lineup: Trout, Arenado, Goldschmidt, and then add in Walker and Gorman and Contreras and all that. And then you're like, oh my God, it'd be the best lineup in the history of baseball. But I just don't think it's the right thing for the Cardinals to do. But hey, if they decide to do it, you won't see me crying about getting Mike Trout. It seems like an impossible move. It's way too late for the Angels, but it is still the right thing for them to do. It's just that package is going to be really, really complicated, and it's only a small number of teams I think are going to really be able to be a contender for it, unless the Angels are really willing to cover a lot of that contract. In which
Yeah.
case, get in there, Cardinals. Like, I'd be
Yeah.
okay with it.
Like Juan Ben Cho, Michael McGreevy, Thomas Agassi, Cooper Jerpy, Gordon Graceffo, Victor
If
Scott too.
if you can get it down to where you're paying Mike Trout 20 million or less a year, and all you had to give up was a bunch of, I mean, like, we like all those names you just said,
Yeah.
but it's Mike Trout. You'll
Right.
take a half season of Mike Trout for 19 million or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I think it really comes down to how you think he's going to age. Like, do you
yeah.
think that he's going to age into this like 40, 50 home run corner outfielding slugger? Or is he going to kind of just dwindle away and become, a shell of himself? But I think if your metrics and your internal stuff is telling you that he's going to become like Nelson Cruz that can actually play corner outfield, and he's going to, you believe in his aging curve. I don't know. It's a conversation to have. How many
Yeah.
Mike Trouts are out there?
Well, I mean, when he's healthy, he crushes.
Yes, he does.
There hasn't been much of a decline in output through the years. He doesn't run like he used to, but that's how much. Unless you're Mookie Betts, like most guys are not running at 30.
Nate, that's
So
true. But his sprint speed, according to Baseball Savant, is still 96th percentile. I know he's not stealing bases, but he's
yeah,
still 96th percentile.
he's still one of the greatest baseball players of all time.
Yeah.
And so like it's still there. Yeah, I'm sure for him it's a risk equation. People get hurt stealing bases all the time, and he
Yeah.
is apparently incredibly fragile, so he doesn't run for that reason. But ultimately, why guys stop running when they get older is a mix of a lot of things. It's not always just because they're slower, although that is often the primary case. But I think for him, it's just staying healthy. But yeah, I mean, again, I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be fun. Mike Trout, a Cardinal, hell yeah.
Yeah,
But it can't be at the expense of spending most of your money on pitching, because
it cannot.
It doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah, but it's fun to think about for right now.
Of course it is. And hey, look, that's some more intrigue for this offseason. We got a lot going on this offseason. All right, we're gonna wrap up this episode with another dumb game. We've played this one, I think, a couple times before. I like to call it I wonder if it's over or under. So Ben, I've been thinking about Adam Wainwright approaching these this milestone number.
Sure.
And that made me think about
Haven't we all?
Made me think about other milestone numbers and what other Cardinals have been able to achieve in their career, and what nice, round numbers people have surpassed.
Sure.
And so I found myself on the Baseball Reference individual player record page, and basically looking at a whole lot of Bob Gibson and Stan Musial numbers. But there's a few in here that stood out to me. So here's what's going to happen.
Sorry, he's knocking on my back door. 1 second.
Yeah, you're fine. I'm going to give you a player, a stat, and the number for that stat. And you tell me, is the number that I gave you over or under what the player actually accomplished?
Yeah, this is like when you and I used to live together back in college. This is like the game that we would play on the couch.
Yep.
I was okay. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah. So these are all big time players and big time numbers.
All right.
Okay. So Stan Musial total WAR.
Yeah.
Okay. Stan Musial total WAR sounds like a really bad, like early Xbox game or something.
The 8th Terminator movie.
Yeah. All right. Stan Musial's total WAR. This is Baseball Reference WAR.
Okay.
Did he achieve the milestone number of 125?
He's inner circle. He is one of the best of all time. 100 alone is a lot of WAR. 125 is basically 2 Hall of Famers in one. I think because of his position, which docked him, he probably did not get there, being first base and corner outfield. I'm going to say no, he is under 125.
You are incorrect, Ben. He got to 128.6.
Wow.
I always set the number at 100 because that is more of a milestone, 100, like more of a round number rather. But I figured you'd be able to get it easily because he is, like you said, he is so incredible, like getting over 100. So I went right up to the line on this one, and I think I would have taken the under as well. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
It's just so high. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Damn. Sorry, Stan.
Mark McGwire's OPS as a St. Louis Cardinal.
Ooh.
Did he eclipse as a career the milestone of 1.1?
1.1?
Yes.
Whoa, I was going to guess it was in the 900s. So you saying 1.1 is insane. Crap. I don't want to be talking bad about some of my favorite Cardinals, but I think that's under on that as well.
Ben, 1.111 is his OPS.
God.
You hit 72 bombs in a season. It does a lot of work for your
OPS. But still,
70.
He was with the Cardinals for, a handful of years. He should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, agreed. So should Barry Bonds.
Wow, 1.111.
Yeah.
That
is, of course, the best. So I pulled this off of all-time records, right?
Yeah.
And so Stan Musial, highest WAR, obviously.
Yeah.
This is the highest OPS. So, all right. Stan Musial, games played. Did he play 3,000 games?
Did he play 3,000 games? Because of the war, the actual war, the World War II, I'm going to say that there's no way that he was able to accrue that many games. So I'm going to say under again, and I'll probably be wrong again.
Ben, he played 3,026 games.
Oh my God. Wow. Well, apparently using any logic that I think I have in my head should go out the window.
I know you're making such educated guesses and just getting it. You're just landing on the wrong side of it.
Ugh.
All right, here's a fun one. Lou Brock stolen bases.
Okay, here we go.
Did he get to 900?
Oh, damn it. So I think I know Ricky beat it and it was in the 900s. Today, I am the greatest.
The Dollop did a 2-part episode on Ricky Henderson, and it is fantastic.
He is not only one of the best inner circle best baseball players of all time, but one of the craziest dudes of all time.
I highly any baseball fan should go and listen to. It's called The Dollop. They do a lot of baseball episodes, and they did a 2-parter on Ricky Henderson, and it's incredible.
Okay, so I thought that Lou Brock, if you would have just asked me on the street, I would have guessed that he was in the 700 or 800s. I know Ricky broke him. I know Ricky was somewhere in the 900. I know it's really close, is I guess what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. My gut tells me it's under. My gut has been wrong every time. Oh, one of these has to be under, and I want to vote with logic rather than playing your game or trying to think along. I'm going to say under. I'm going to say under 900.
All right, you got this one, Ben, but it is close. He had 888 stolen bases.
Wow, that is insane.
Yeah.
Lou Brock. I like this game. At least we get to talk about good baseball players.
I know. Here's a great baseball player, but a terrible stat. Yadier Molina. How many double plays did he ground into?
Oh, man.
He reached the milestone of 300 double plays grounded into.
So I was going to get, my line of thought was he grounded into 20 double plays a year for 19 years. So it's which puts it right there. You said 300?
300.
I will say, so that number would make sense if he was averaging that, right? And let's say that he probably averaged less than that early and more in that later, but he's also playing fewer games later, which would make it trend lower than 300, unless he had a year where he hit into 40 or 50, which honestly could be possible with Yachty.
Could be.
I'm going to say under again. I don't think it was that high.
You got this one, Ben. It was close though. He grounded into 287 double plays, which is the Cardinal record.
Yeah, that has to be.
Yeah,
the slowest best Cardinal.
It's one that you just don't see getting beaten anytime
No.
soon. It's got to be someone who plays that long, is a mainstay in your lineup for that long, but is also not that good offense. It's like it's a catcher's
Yeah. Yes.
record.
It's a Yachty stat. Really,
It's a
it's
Yachty
unique to Yachty.
Yeah.
Or a
All right.
Molina brother.
Yeah. The brothers Molina. All right, we're going back to the big time. Complete games by Bob Gibson. Is it over under 250?
Over, holy shit, really? That's the number you're picking? God, he was amazing. Wow. So I do know that he has some crazy stat where it's like he's got, 346 wins and 75% of those were complete games or something like that. I know, I don't know the actual numbers off my head, but I do know it's something bonkers like that. And he's Bob Gibson. It's hard to underestimate Bob Gibson. I'm going to say over. Bobby Gibson has over 250 complete games.
Ben, he had 255 complete games.
Wow.
Also,
how many wins did he have? Do you have that in front of you right now?
I can get it real quick.
Because I know it's some insane percentage. Or it might even...
He had 200. He might have... Yeah, he had 251 wins because he was
had more complete games than wins. That's insane. What a amazing player.
251 wins, 3,117 strikeouts, and a 2.91 earned run average.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Not bad. All right, my last one here for you, Ben. Jason Isringhausen.
Oh, damn it.
As a Cardinal, how many saves did he have?
Yeah.
The number is 200.
Oh,
did he reach the career milestone of 200?
He was there for a while. It's my memory, because of the end of his career, my memory is like so soiled. It's like, how the hell would he have got to 300 or 200? But that's really like 4 or 5 seasons of being a decent closer to get to 200. And I think he had that in him. And the Cardinals were good at those times, so a lot of opportunities. I am going to say yes, he broke 200 as a Cardinal.
You got it, Ben. He had 217.
Wow. Is he in the Cardinals Hall of Fame? Should he be?
Yes. Yeah, it was like this year or last year.
Okay.
It just happened.
All right. Well, good for him.
I think he should be. He should be. I'm a big Hall kind of guy, though. If you were a big part of any generation of Cardinals, like, I don't care what your total numbers are. It's like why I was super okay with David Freese being in the Cardinal Hall of Fame, even if he didn't think he deserved to be in it.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, you had a rough start, but you got the last 5 correct.
That was really hurting my pride there in the beginning. That was rough. I did not like that whatsoever.
Yeah. But overall, good game. So, so that'll be it for this episode. Thanks again to everyone for listening. Patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. We've only got a couple weeks left of the regular season, then we go on into the playoffs, which we will be covering. So stick around, tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your cousins, tell your dog to tell their dog friends. It helps. All of it helps.
All of it helps.
Yep. We got a new stray cat that's probably going to be living with us soon. I tell it about the podcast. See, I'm doing my work.
You got to get the word out in the street.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Talking About Birds street team. Let's go.
Yep. And with that, we'll be back again next week. And until then, go Cardinals.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Talking about